Hello, hope your workday is polishing off nicely. For anyone who hasn't seen one of my videos, typically I put a lot more work into them, using cutscenes and effects and background music and all kinds of stuff, making sure that the audio is A1. But I just wanted to get something condensed, keep everything condensed while we do our communication back and forth, just so I can value your time as highly as possible and get everything across as clear as possible. That way it just makes everyone's life easier as we all collaborate on this. So I don't have anything scripted or any notes, but just going to go over things as we see them here. Mostly just going to be on the screen, pulling up the stills and looking at them individually. So what we can see that we've done, we've got the top 7 and the bottom 7. What we can see that we've done in the bottom 7 is that we've started to create a consistent branding in this first initial static, open-ended content marketing strategy. So we've started to bring together some branding. So we did the updates, these bottom 7, and I'm sure everyone, I'm not trying to be redundant, just making sure that we're all on the same page. This bottom 7 has had work done to it and updated, and updated with the color scheme and all kinds of stuff. And each set has pros and cons that through this video we should be able to jump onto the same page and create one long consistent screen, is what I believe Embed calls them. So it's a screen and it's what it's gonna display. So we've got 2 screens and they're gonna display each still, but it's gonna be animated in all the video. So it's one long loop. So technically these 14, and there might be others or what have you, it's one long loop. So we're starting here, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, and it'll continue through here to here to here to here, and it will just loop on 2 screens. Just think 2 of them on the wall together, probably about 5 to 7 feet apart, and they'll just loop. So the branding, the color schemes, the approach needs to be consistent. And we have consistent formatting in the strategy. So all we need to do is make things consistent throughout the stills. I'll start with these since these are the upgraded ones. This is the second version of these 7 stills. Yeah, 7. These look wonderful. I really appreciate the changes that you made. It looks absolutely wonderful. So let's go through these. I love that. Looks great. I can tell. I know that these are stop images or what have you, still images. I realize this is a video. The video looks HD, and I love that you were able to get rid of the green on the mesh. It looks really, really good. I love this here. It's all looking great. Maybe on this borderline here, going around the perimeter of the logo in the background, make that a little thinner, maybe about half. Reduce it by half so it's almost not visible. It just seems to pop. Instead of the border actually being visible, the logo and its background just for some reason seem to pop. So it's the combination of the thin line in the border and the line shadow. We'll have it pop right over top. And before we move on with these secondary stills or revised stills, we can see here there's the formatting is relatively consistent throughout all the stills and all of the project. You can see here that we have the logo and a subtitle. This is what we want for this side. So basically we want to combine this first still and this second still to be more like this still. We don't want to change any of the aesthetic. Since we've done the revision here, the aesthetic looks wonderful. We just want to have this exactly what it is, and in some visibly appealing way, have it say underneath here, I think what was it? Indy's Premier Pet Resort. So basically we will eliminate this still, and we will bring that subtitle underneath the logo here in some way. If we need to push the logo up a little bit to have everything centered, if we need to use the same font and color for the subtitle, if we need to use a thinner white line to separate the subtitle, if we need to give it some beige background, what have you. We want to combine the logo. Exactly what you have here is absolutely beautiful. We just want to include the subtitle somewhere down where it's separated and everything isn't real blended together, but it's also, so I think you catch my drift there. Make sure you save a backup of what you have now, because what you have now is beautiful as well. I just want to see what we can get out of making an attempt to include a subtitle here. This looks beautiful. I love it. But let's see if we can get that subtitle in there saying Indy's Premier Pet Resort. And then it will move into this still, which again looks great. We'll just make the borderline thinner, about half. Looking forward to seeing what the stop motion looks like on this. Everything looks good. This looks good. I like it. I like that it draws attention to ultimate experience. Because, people will see that, ultimate experience. What is the ultimate experience? Adding grooming to your pet's boarding stay. So that works for us. This looks good. The changes made. Everything looks great. And I love what you did with everything here. So everything's looking wonderful. Trying to think if I would have any notes. Okay, so we're using a consistent font. Let's see if we can make the font just a bit thinner. I forget what the terminology is for that. To reduce the bold. I can't remember what the terminology is for it. I apologize. So just make it a little less bold. I'm sure that gets my point across. The font is looking good. Just if we could reduce I don't remember what the terminology is, but if we could just make it a bit thinner, kind of reduce it a little bit, and that will pull it back into the still instead of having it pop as aggressively. Okay, what we want to do, so we had a revision on the second 7. What we want to do to revise the first 7, and again, before we move on to what's up top here, we want to attempt to see what it would look like if we could. The original idea was to have something like this and then have the subtitle underneath it. So let's see if we can do something like that, and then it'll just move on right into this. And if it doesn't look as good, then I like this as well. But let's see what we can do as far as getting a subtitle in here. And then it happens to me all the time. I can see how much work has been put into these stills here. It happens to me all the time, so I do apologize. that, you know, we're going to have to change some stuff. We're going to have to change some things because the idea is to make a consistent branding image. And so what we have here is good, and it's been revised, and we've got it on, you know, a single page. We need to bring this to a position where it matches. That way, when it plays on a consistent loop, there aren't any inconsistencies. So the first still here, and I'm not sure, I realize these are videos that you've got to capture an image while the video is rolling or what have you, but I don't know if we're using HD videos on these top 7. Want to make sure that we're using something HD, that way it just looks stock. We can see here this video is really HD, and we might use a different dog or a different video here. You know, the couch is a little blasé, and the dog is he's a little blasé himself. We've got a lot of dark brown, and we've kind of got a lot of the dark red. And I realize this is probably brown, but it does kind of look like a very dark burgundy, which would have matched our original stills here. But now that we've changed things to a cream-based color scheme, we want to change this as well, and we want to make sure that the video quality is consistent. 1080p or whatever, whatever makes it look stock. But we basically want to copy the exact formula that we've developed in these bottom 7 stills, except so like for this one we would do something more along the lines of this, with the overlay, the logo over top, and then we would mix in the subtitle at the bottom, and then just use a different if you haven't watched the other videos, what we're going for is very neutral, open-ended, static. Everything's independent. We want to use neutral colors like peach. I'm sure he gave you the palette. Peach, tan, cream, everything cream-based. So we want to get away from anything that's too aggressive. The idea is neutrality. We want to start with neutrality. That way when we move forward and we start to come back to you guys to develop very specific content marketing strategies that we're continually updating every quarter or every month or every 2 weeks, whatever it ends up being, we want to have a very basic neutral starting place that's consistent and static and totally independent. So we want to maybe, you can see here that in this video we have, there was a green mesh, which I'm sure you've seen these things. Again, I'm not trying to be redundant. I'm just making sure that all of us are on the same page. There was a green mesh here. We've gotten rid of that, and it looks wonderful. So we've got white or tan, you might say. We've got something that's kind of cream-based. This is cream-based here. We've got a lot of white in the cat. We've got brown and tan in the cat. We've got some black and gray. We've got all kinds of tan. This is sort of like a gray cream. We've got a lot of tan, very light brown here with the light coming in white. We've got tan and brown here on the flooring. We've got brown in here, and then this is sort of like a dark gray or whatever, and it's it's kind of cropped out. I forget what the term is. It's like running over or something like that. It's been a long time since I've had an art class. But kind of like this might be like a super dark gray or like a gray blue. It's not, it's not, it's a piece of furniture. It's not taking up a large portion of the image. What is taking a large portion of the image in this video is white, cream, gray, tan, very light brown. So those types of things. We want to make sure that we have a video that's consistent with that. So we've got some, this is a very hard brown. Not hard, but it's brown. Even with the light on it. Well, with the light on it, that kind of gets into the palette. But this is pretty much like a burgundy, and then we've got a pretty hard brown here, which it would fit into the burgundy red color scheme, but we're definitely going for a very confident and assertive cream based, if that makes any kind of sense. So we want to do pretty much the same exact thing here. Same formula, except with a dog and a subtitle. And right, the subtitle will say 21 years of excellence. Then this is perfect. This is exactly what I had in my mind with the curves and the cream-based colors. It looks perfect. So the font is looking good. Perhaps if we just reduce it a little bit, maybe even reduce the cursive. I don't know. I'll let you play with that. You're the expert. And so these slides basically they correlate. These slides correlate the menus. These slides correlate, which is basically an upsell. This is also sort of like a menu type of deal, and then these two here are independent, sort of like these are. So we're going to change this from something closer to this while adding in the subtitles. We're going to make this something more like this. I love this cut in here that comes in at the bottom. I would like to see that used all across, I think. That's going to really bring home the consistency. So do that here. And then we have the menu. Let's start with something like this. Maybe even exactly like this, only having a different stop motion, effect coming across. Something that's more along the lines like this, instead of having a lot of white space. Maybe having the text follow a consistent black or white, and having the color on the icons. Definitely want to get rid of the word menu. Don't want to have the word menu in there. Don't want to have prices in there. Amenities looks good. So we want to make this a lot more like this. So this is an upsell, which is our total objective. Add grooming to your pet's boarding stay for the ultimate experience. So people see ultimate experience, and then they get the idea we're animal boarding. So people they got to go out of town to visit their parents, or they got to go out of town for a business meeting or what have you, and they board their pet with us, and the pet stays, and we have these boarding amenities, cuddle breaks and all this stuff, right, which you're aware of. But we're on this still, which is much like this still, we're taking the opportunity to suggest an additional conversion sale. So we want to have this very closely mirror something like this. Perhaps, this is busy. So what we're trying to do here is very, very important. And so it's important to have the text here easy to just run right through. We've got, cat, dog here, and a heart dog here and a lot of grass. So it pulls a lot away from this area here, which ends up being, this area in and of itself is a very blocky, it's a block of text. And people tend to avoid blocks of text, especially when they're in some place where they know how they have to spend money. They know they're trying to get you to buy something anyway. So if it's really busy and the text is like a block of text, then people will avoid it. So we need to make it mirror something just like this. It's very reduced, it's sleek, it follows our palette, it's not too busy, it's organized. So something just like this. Let's see. So this is technically a menu. We want to make sure that we keep menu out of it though. We don't want to use the word menu. So we want to have something just like this. Now, I will be honest, I don't know how I feel about stop motion, but then again, I'm not an expert, and so just because stop motion videos kind of make me feel uncomfortable from a design perspective, I know that they are a massive, they're a massive staple in videography and animation and graphics. So I'm totally open to seeing what the completed project looks like, because I'm not perfect, I don't know everything, and I'm having faith in the direction that we're going. So like I've said, I'm genuinely excited to see what this looks like in the end product. But we want to make sure that our menus so we've got videos, and I don't know if this is a video or not. It would be really cool if it was, but I know that at least it's a picture. But then for like the info screens or the menus, we've got something a little more along the lines like this. So we want to make sure that we develop a consistency. So basically less grass. And then make sure that all the menus are consistent. And this is a great rule of thumb. I think that this looks beautiful. And again, I'm genuinely excited to see it included in the final product. So we want to kind of bring this towards this. Again, let's make sure we're using HD videos. Let's not do any kind of color or we don't want to do any kind of clip art. I realize that you're much more, your clientele base is much larger than we are. I do realize that. But we want to stick towards something like this. And again, let's make the borderline a little thinner. And so if you're going to put the logo in anywhere, just make sure it's consistent with something like this, something like that, or something like this. We don't want to have any kind of, the fewer differences that we can have, the better. That way we can develop a consistent branding, marketing strategy, graphic design, what have you. Signing for our dog training. Ask about a slot now before they fill up. Classes are every 8 weeks. Let's make sure we stay away from any kind of like wire frames of dogs or anything like that. Save the logo. The placement on this logo is a little out of place. This one will be so this is going to be, let me check my paper notes. And I'm sorry, I know I'm pushing time. I'll wrap up right away. So this slide is going to be just like this one as well. And it'll say your pet's best friend. So there's going to be 3 of these. The first one's going to be like this revised still. This one will be right like itself, but with the subtitle in, if we can make it look good. And then this one will be like this as well. So we start to bring everything full circle. We're bringing everything together and developing a consistent message. This will be like a menu. This one's going to be like this. It's an upsell. It's where we're being suggestive on the upsell. We're being assertive. So we want to make sure that we're not too busy. We want to make sure that people don't avoid it, because we're already trying to get them to spend more money. So if it's busy, then they will avoid it. This is a menu. We're making this like this. Again, we're trying to bring this and this together in any way that looks aesthetically pleasing. So if it's just this and putting in the subtitle and then calling it a day, or if we're literally mixing the two, like we've got this, we make it a tiny bit smaller, move it up, we get the subtitle in some kind of cream wavies that work well with the black overlay. Whatever looks best. The details are at your discretion, of course. And then, so what I was trying to do was isolate this guy. So this is really, and let me check my paper notes and then we're done. Because it doesn't have a menu, this is the only still or slide or frame that is totally independent. So we basically just need to come back at it in a way that is consistent with these bottom 7 stills. So just pull it apart and bring it back together to fit this consistent branding, at least within the video that we're creating. Yeah, I think that gets everything across. As always, if you have any more questions, thoughts, concerns, anything at all that I can do to make your life easier, just let me know. Whatever comes to mind. I believe you guys are probably in California unless you work remote, which I believe is like 4 hours behind me. So it's 9:17 p.m. now. I'll probably, if you get right back to me, then I'll probably be up for a little bit longer, and I always respond. So, but otherwise, it'll be tomorrow. We're getting very close, and I'm really excited, and I really appreciate what you guys have worked to bring together, because, frankly speaking, I got out there to look at some other videos of signage and just looking for anything that I could use to help make your life easier in any way, shape, or form. And just what you guys are doing is cutting edge. Digital signage, even for like hotels, which in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, so you have the menus that you're using in restaurants, right? So like Pizza Hut, McDonald's, all that stuff. You got menus, and of course you want those to be beautiful. But at the same time, people want to use, large corporations want to use digital signage, and obviously, I'm not trying to be redundant. I'm trying to actually pay you a compliment, but you think of like Sandals Resort, or any kind of resort, or any kind of like Hilton Hotel, right? Hilton Hotel, you pick up a contract with them, and they've got screens everywhere. Digital signage, the industry talks about, purchasing digital signage and putting it in a mall, right? And having it going down the hallways and stuff, and actually using digital signage more like billboards. Well, the other digital signage softwares, the companies, your competition basically just is not up to snuff. It's like they want to have things displaying the weather or displaying clocks or these weird, basically made up of widgets, when really digital signage, the primary objective would be to curate a message that completes a business objective. So I love what you're bringing together, and I think it's going to do a lot for the animal den. So looking forward to the completed project. All right, I'll quit jabber-jawing on and be looking forward to your questions or anything that you have come to mind. I'll talk to you.